Tay, how surprised were you that Washington was able to handle the paint as well as they were?
Well, you mean?
As far as scoring the paint, they were up like 14. They outscored you guys 14.
Yeah, they did a really good job offensive rebounding, and that's one of the strengths of Washington's team. And we had some breakdowns, but for the most part, some of the things we did on defense were really, really good. I think the game was a function of a couple segments, one of which was in the first 20 minutes. We turned the ball over 9 times, and our turnovers were against the 2-3 zone. Our turnovers weren't against a pressing, trapping team or a denial team that likes to turn their opponent over. A lot of our turnovers were just a tentative team attacking the zone. And in Washington, to their credit, they did a good job in the zone. So you turn the ball over 9 times. And, some of the stats that come up like points in the paint, some of those points are scored off of those turnovers. And those turnovers hurt your defense every bit as much as your offense. We also started the game 0 for 8 from 3. And if the team is playing a 2-3 zone, you think about that for a second. You have 9 turnovers and you're 0 for 8 from 3. There's a lot of things offensively that aren't clicking. But to our credit, in the second half, we did a better job against their zone. We scored more points. We were more efficient. And we had 4 turnovers in the entire second half. And 2 of those came really in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes of the game. So we did a much better job taking care of the ball and attacking their zone. And again, our defense, although not perfect, if you go points per possession or what we did defensively, a lot of good things happened. We were defending one of America's best players in college basketball, Markelle Fultz. And I thought as a team we did a really good job. And I thought Kadeem Allen really took on the challenge and really did about as well as you can.
How do you feel working in Alonzo's been coming along?
Alonzo, really, really happy with him. Missing 19 games is an odd thing. And you come back, especially to a team that would be 17-2, you wonder how this whole thing's going to work. But he's embraced a number of things that we fully expected him to do as far back as October. And that is that he's a much better ball handler and passer. He sees the court a lot better. He plays with his teammates much easier. The game comes easier to him. And if you look at his assist to turnover, I looked at it this morning, I think it's 14-2 in 3 games. So he has roughly half the assists in 3 games that he did in 27, I think he played last year. And that 14 assists and 2 turnovers is great. He's also rebounding the ball as a guard as well as anybody. I mean, he has 15 defensive rebounds in the last 2 games. So he's averaging over 5 rebounds a game, and that's something that we talked a lot about. Defensively, he's done a good job. And, his shooting, he's taken a couple of bad ones, and it's not all his fault. A couple threes that he took were like he had the ball with 2 seconds on the clock. But I think his percentage will start showing as well as he settles in and is able to get some good looks from 3. But he's playing really good basketball. I think that the best is yet to come. And I think as our team and him play together more, it'll be more seamless moving forward.
Coach, you mentioned that Chance had a couple breakdowns yesterday, defensively or rebounding-wise. How did you think of his overall performance, diving for a couple or for a loose ball? And he just seems like he's more comfortable in the offense.
Chance is giving us quality minutes every game. I mean, his shooting percentage is off the charts. He's become a dependable low-post scorer. And he did a very good job helping on the ball screens. A lot of times with Fultz, it's never just one player that defends a very good player on the other team. It's the team. And Chance was a big part of our success when we played some really good defense. He didn't defensive rebound in the game yesterday. I think he didn't have one. So, some of that is a function of wrong place, wrong time. But, I think that's something that we're going to talk to him about. But all of the other areas, he did a really good job. He's taking care of the ball better. He would always have that one illegal screen or that one turnover when he first started this season. That's really gone away. So he's an overall much better player, and he's giving us some great minutes for sure.
Are there plans to move Alonzo back into the starting lineup anytime soon?
We could. We're looking at that right now. I think in fairness to both Alonzo and our team, he's playing starters minutes, and there's no reason to not let that happen. But somebody's going to have to be taken out of the lineup, and that's not easy to do when you're 20-2. But that's all part of the sacrifice that we have to be able to make as a team. And whoever that person is, it's not like they're getting benched or Alonzo's so much better. It's more along the lines of there's still going to be a valuable player. As a matter of fact, their minutes will remain the same. It's just at the beginning of both halves, they won't be in there. But whoever that person is, and I don't think we've decided that, that doesn't mean they've done anything wrong.
How do you even go about making that determination that Alonzo's ready to go back in the starting lineup?
Just watching his productivity in a game. And, substitution patterns are awkward when somebody's playing 30 minutes and they're not starting. So I actually think it could make our team's chemistry better, our overall play a little bit more efficient if we make that change. And that's why we would do it. We're not going to do it to hurt anybody's feelings or make Alonzo feel better. It would be the right thing for our team. And if it's the right thing for our team, that's what we have to do.
Predetermined to sub him in earlier on yesterday when he was coming in just 2 minutes into the half instead of waiting immediate time?
You almost have to do that to make the substitution pattern work. But that's what I mean. If you're going to do that, I think the next step is to insert him into the lineup. When we do it, I'm not sure. I think we'll work through these next couple of days and then make that determination.
Coach, what have you seen on tape from Oregon State, if you've even seen any tape yet? And how important is this weekend in its entirety?
Well, I haven't really delved into Oregon State yet. I mean, we're just finishing from last night's game. But, a couple of things that I know. I know Stephen Thompson is having an outstanding sophomore season. He's really picked it up lately in the Colorado-Utah swing. I think he had 60 points. And I knew him as far back as high school, just watching him play. And he's a very talented player. He's an all-conference, all-Pac-12 type of player. And, the thing about Wayne Tinkle, and I know they've had an incredible amount of injuries, and he's working to build this team. His teams really play hard. They're physical. They certainly mix in zone, and I'm sure he'll mix in zone against us, especially after watching us against Washington. So, I think, number one, it's up to us to be more efficient and more at ease, more confident against the zone when they play it. And, Gil Coliseum has been a tough place for us. We haven't had great success there. Winning on the road is hard regardless of where you go. So we expect a tough game. It's a conference game. It's a home game for them. And when you're a team like them, you're looking for those highlights. And certainly with us coming in undefeated, it would be a big, I think, boost for them this season and really in their future if they could beat us. So, that's part of being the hunted, and that's what we are right now. And we have to be able to back that up with great togetherness, being ready, executing, and understanding it's really not about who or where we're playing, it's about us. And that's kind of was my point reviewing the Washington State and Washington games. I mean, both teams did a great job against us. I think especially Washington State, they're so much improved from a year ago. They showed that. They went to ASU and had a great win. But I'm only judging our team by what we do, and there are times in both games that we could have been better.
Does the Oregon losing Colorado give you any little credibility to tell these guys? It seems like a really parallel situation. They go to Oregon, lose. Now you go to Oregon State, they're winless, but maybe has some potential there.
Yes, and I don't think we have a player on our roster that's ever won at Oregon State. Because most of our guys haven't played there, and then the few that have would have played there 2 years ago, and that would be like Duson and Parker. So for us, I think it's a challenge to go in there and play well. A lot of times that first game sets the tone for the second. And we're not looking at the second game. This is 100% about the next game on our schedule, as it was when we went to L.A. We were so focused on playing well in that first game against USC, and we needed to because they're good. And we need to go into Oregon State and play a great game. Be at our best is what we're trying to be.
How different is Oregon State without Trey Tinkle?
Well, if you look at their stats in the 6 games that he played this year, he averaged 20 points per game. So if you're going to lose a 20-point-per-game scorer, it's a big blow.
He's had a couple like 20 point, 10 rebound games lately.
Well, I looked at him last year as one of the best freshmen in our conference, and there was quite a few good ones. And the maturity of playing a full season, going through an off season, coming back for a second year, players improve greatly, and it looks like both him and Stephen Thompson as sophomores have made that jump.
Have you changed since you've been here, just in general, about the way, or anything you've fine-tuned as far as motivating guys? It seemed like yesterday was a classic example where they're a little bit down, but you're maybe looking forward and trying to reset them a little bit, and that kind of psychology way that you deal with the guys. Does that change at all?
No, I mean, you grow as you get older as a coach. The thing that we all try to guard against is complacency. The one aspect that you always want to have in total command as a coaching staff is effort. So, if you have a team that's giving great effort, it's really hard to accuse them of being disconnected or, your team's chemistry is lacking. It's evident that that's not the case because of how much each of our players is giving of themselves and playing hard and, playing to win. So, if you ever see, I think, cracks in the armor and it can happen where in a moment, maybe not even in an entire game, but for a segment, you see that, I think it's responsible to be able to try and fix that regardless of whether you won or lost. That's that process we talk a lot about, that it's not just, hey, we won a home game, or, well, hey, what's the problem, coach? We just got a sweep here against the Washington schools. There's always a bigger picture. It's the next week. It's the next game. And so many times the previous week leads into that next week. So, for us this week, being more confident against the zone, we have been confident against the zone, and we can get that back. We didn't execute as well. I think number two is just, making sure that our identity as a defensive team, a tough-minded team, remains intact. And because as the season grows, you're playing against players that are playing at their best, like Stephen Thompson and Drew, and then you move into the Oregon team, obviously a great team on the weekend. Any team that plays Oregon, they're going to have to be at their best to have any chance at all.
Talk a lot about Kadeem Allen this year as the team's leader, and now coming down the stretch here at the end of the season. How important is his role, and how has it maybe evolved, and how is he continuing to be that leader for these guys?
Well, he's been the leader. He's very dependable. He's a great defensive player. He's, to me, an underrated offensive player for us because he scores big baskets. If you look at his three-point shooting, I would like him to shoot more open three-point shots. He's still a guy sometimes that passes up the open three, shooting 47% from three. His free throw percentage is great as well, especially for him. Against the Washington schools, and he'd be the first one to tell you, I think he had 8 turnovers. So that's not good, 5 and 3. But other than that, he's playing great basketball. And I think that, an all-defensive team player, a potential all-conference player, that's who he is. And, leadership-wise, he's been there from the Michigan State game on.
How would you describe with Kadeem and in general the point guard mix you have going on right now? Because I know you said yesterday it didn't quite work out for Parker, struggling against the zone, but you've had Kadeem, Kobe a little bit, and Parker. Where do you expect it? Where's that at in your mind, and where do you want it to go?
Well, we have 2 players that play the point, and that's Parker and Kadeem. And, Kobe, obviously, he's set up to be the emergency point guard, and he's been called on a number of times this year because of the injuries to those guys or foul trouble. But Parker, it's like a change of pace. Parker is a pass-first point guard. His assist-to-turnover ratio has always been really good, and this year's no different. He hasn't shot the ball as well as he did a year ago, but that can change quickly. And, but we trust both of those guys. They're both a big part of our success.
Was there anything more about Parker than just the turnovers and dealing with the zone yesterday that you'd like to see him do better that just wasn't happening?
No, it was just a function of the game. And he did some good things. Like Kadeem, he had some turnovers. We had 8 turnovers between the 2 of them in yesterday's game, and that really hurt us. But that doesn't happen often. Parker in particular does a great job of taking care of the ball, and I like our point guard position. I think the 2 of them complement each other well. Obviously, Kadeem plays off the ball some too, so he's not just a point guard for us. He's a guard, period.
With Kobe, it looks like he has been more decisive against the zone. When did that light come on for him?
Well, freshmen, that's a big change for them. High school to college, playing against the variety and the size of zones. The fact that zones aren't just the hands up, standing around anymore. I mean, there's some really active zones, the size. So the what to do and sometimes what not to do just takes game experience. But you're right, Kobe can really put the ball on the floor and penetrate. And penetration against the zone is something that we have to do a better job of. And he's also a capable shooter. But, I think, for me, probably about a month ago is when I think he settled in general, not just playing against the zone, but defense, offense, et cetera.
What's your thoughts on just halfway mark of the Pac-12? Anything about the conference surprised you, impressed you, et cetera?
No, I think we have 6 teams that are in contention for an NCAA tournament bid. I hope that all 6 make it. I think the ball has to bounce our way in some cases the next month or so for all 6 to make it. But if you look at, I guess, Cal, USC, Utah, UCLA, Arizona, and Oregon, I don't think I'm missing anybody. Certainly those other teams could maybe play themselves in or get hot and win the Pac-12 tournament for sure. But I think I'm just going on the non-conference and then where we are as a conference halfway through. And I think that half of our conference is still very much alive to make that happen. And, as a coach, you want the most teams possible to enter the NCAA tournament. That's healthy for our future. It's healthy for our conference. And we have a really strong conference at the top this year. I mean, if you look at the top, how our teams have done, we really represent the conference in a positive way.
Was there any one player, one team that's jumped out at you and said, I didn't think they'd be that good or anything? But...
No, I really, before the year started, thought UCLA and Oregon were going to be very, very good teams. But there's a lot of quality players, in our conference and some great young, talented players. Ivan Rabb is somebody that's sometimes under the radar because he's no longer a freshman, and everybody focuses on those first-year players. But, how well he's playing and how good of a player he is. I mean, he's somebody that, again, I'm happy that he's in our conference because there aren't too many front court players that are better than him. And, I think he had a big game last night against Stanford. I could really see him hitting his stride down the stretch of the Pac-12.
What's your opinion on the NCAA releasing the top 16 seeds early?
I think it's great that they're progressing, that they're not resting on how it's always been and, moving and adapting. I'm sure the college football model, they learned a lot from that. And but anything to create interest and excitement before Selection Sunday is healthy for our game. And we have some great people in charge. Dan Gavitt in particular, very, very intelligent, does a great job with the tournament, has a lot of experience and cares a great deal about the tournament. And just to see him, some of his comments about that, obviously they did a lot of research. So I'm excited to see it. I really am. I guess that's probably about 2 weeks away from them announcing.
Gonzaga got ranked #1 today. Is that based on what you saw from them firsthand and what you maybe gathered around the nation? Does that surprise you at all, or do you think they're...
No, I mean, there's probably not one clear-cut team. There's probably a dozen, maybe 8, 6 teams that you could say could win it all or maybe should be in the top 5, whatever, #1. But they deserve it. They're, 22-0 and great experience, great size, great coach. We're very familiar with them. And, I'm just happy for our non-conference schedule. We played the #1 team in the country and with about what felt like 6 of our players missing. So, what were we ranked?